All right, let's jump straight into a deep dive today. We've got two really interesting sources.
Mm-hmm.
One's an astrological forecast for a pretty significant shift happening, like right now.
Right. And the other.
And the other is this story feels almost like a myth or a fable.
Okay. And the idea is to see how they sort of talk to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to unpack what these sources tell us about the energy, the themes,
Mm-hmm.
especially as Jupiter moves into Cancer for the next year.
A big move. And it starts, basically, now.
Yeah, it runs for a whole year.
Yeah.
And both sources really seem to hone in on home, family, the past, healing too.
There's definitely a sense of change, maybe opportunity described in there.
A powerful combination, feels like. The material suggests we're kind of entering a time that asks us to look back, maybe look inward.
Yeah, in order to build something stronger going forward. That seems to be the gist.
Okay, let's unpack this. First, the astrology. What's the immediate vibe?
Yeah.
Like for today, Juneteenth.
Well, the forecast for today points to something pretty outgoing, adventurous, optimistic energy, a shift towards positive thinking, good for, exploring ideas, maybe travel.
Sounds energetic.
Yeah, there's enthusiasm there, a can-do spirit available, it says.
So maybe good for brainstorming, that kind of thing. Less so for, I don't know, deep emotional talks right this second.
That's pretty much it. The source suggests holding off on the really heavy emotional digging today. It's more forward-looking.
Got it. Initiating, not introspecting.
Right. But that's just today. The real headline, like you said, is the bigger shift. Jupiter moving into Cancer.
And it's there for a while.
Over a year.
Yeah.
From June 9th, 2025, all the way to June 29th, 2026.
Wow.
And the material makes a point of saying this hasn't happened for 12 years.
12 years. Okay, so it's a significant cycle starting.
Definitely. Focusing on those Cancerian themes.
And what are those, typically, when Jupiter's involved?
Well, the sources highlight things like empathy, charity, a big focus on home, family, security,
Okay.
emotional expansion, needing spiritual nourishment. And a key theme mentioned repeatedly is ancestral healing.
Ancestral healing. That sounds deep. How does that show up, according to the forecast?
This suggests that, childhood wounds might resurface.
Ah,
And generational patterns, those things that kind of repeat in families, they might demand attention, maybe resolution.
so family history stuff.
Yeah, and our sense of belonging gets magnified too. Like, where do we really feel at home?
So Jupiter brings its optimism, its expansion,
Yeah.
but directs it into these potentially sensitive areas.
Exactly, but the potential is described as huge. New opportunities, positive thinking are possible.
Okay.
You might feel more nostalgic, maybe more vulnerable, but also this strong desire to protect and nurture.
And that Jupiter enthusiasm helps tackle the home and family stuff.
That's the idea. It channels that good fortune energy Jupiter's known for.
How does that fortune spread in this context?
Through acts of kindness, the sources say. Helping others, this kind of abiding spirit of humanity that knows no borders.
That's lovely.
And providing safe space, like literal shelter or just being a shoulder to lean on. It's Jupiter's abundance turned towards nurturing.
Makes sense. But with expansion, there can be pitfalls.
Yeah.
The material mentions needing boundaries.
Right. With all this emotional expansion and focus on belonging, it becomes important to know what's your emotion versus what's just out there.
The collective consciousness, as they
Yeah.
put it.
Exactly. Good boundaries help you sort that out. What's mine, what's not mine.
And collectively. On a bigger scale, the sources point to some challenges too, right?
They do. They're quite direct, actually. Mentioning confronting unprocessed grief,
Okay.
family karma, those unresolved family dynamics.
Right.
And, this is strong phrasing, nationalistic illusions and false ideals of home that were used to divide, manipulate, and suppress.
Wow. Okay. So it's suggesting we might need to look at how our ideas of home or even nation might be flawed
Yeah.
or harmful.
It seems to point that way, uncovering where the foundations are shaky, basically, where our past, personal or collective, holds us back regarding belonging.
So facing this difficult stuff, old wounds, family patterns, these collective illusions, it's framed as necessary.
Necessary for growth, yes. And the big opportunity described is developing a new type of wisdom over the next year,
Which is
the wisdom of the heart.
the wisdom of the heart. How do we access that?
It's guided by empathy, intuition, not just logic or external rules.
Okay.
It's about rebuilding our personal and social inner sanctuary, finding safety and belonging from the inside out and helping others do the same.
Right, that inner foundation. Okay, that paints a clear picture from the astrological side. Now, The really striking thing is this story, The Heart of TIRASEL. It almost seems to use narrative to say the same things.
It really does. The parallels are quite something. Even the
Okay.
setting TIRASEL, the cliffs, the sanctuary, it feels symbolic of home.
And it starts with a storm, right? A significant storm.
Yes, described as feeling significant, much like this astrological shift feels significant.
And then there's this object, the Heartstone.
And an ancient relic, yeah. A pulsing crystal holding ancestral wisdom.
And the detail that jumps out.
It had lain dormant for 12 years.
12 years. Okay, wait. Just like the Jupiter cycle.
Exactly. It feels very intentional in the story.
Wow.
Linking that ancient ancestral wisdom directly to this moment as Jupiter's light appears and the stone comes back to life.
Okay, that's uncanny. Then we meet Elenya.
Right. Descended from healers, but she herself was abandoned at the sanctuary as a child.
And her work.
She guards others' wounded hearts, widows, the childless, displaced people. She provides sanctuary.
So she's doing that outward nurturing thing like Jupiter and Cancer suggest.
The source notes her personal challenge. She denies her own wounds, locks them away.
Ah, the classic healer, heal thyself issue.
Yeah.
And the story says she feels this call. Her own reckoning is coming.
Yes, a call in her blood, dreams of ancestors. It perfectly matches the year of reckoning theme from the story.
A year of reckoning.
Yeah.
What does that mean in this story?
It's a time for old wounds to surface, for those invisible threads connecting people to their pasts to be seen, unraveled, mended.
And weird things happen.
Yeah, like disturbed graves, secrets coming out, hidden bloodlines revealed. The past literally refusing to stay buried.
Okay. Then a stranger arrives.
Okay.
Soldier.
Broad-shouldered, pale-eyed, a scar. Very archetypal. He arrives on the solstice eve.
And he brings a prophecy.
In an ancient tongue only Elenya can read. And it cuts right to the chase.
Which is?
The world must unearth its forgotten grief. Only then can a new sanctuary rise.
Unearth forgotten grief. That's incredibly direct. It echoes the astrology perfectly confronting that unprocessed grief.
And the story details other challenges that sound very familiar from the forecast, right?
Yeah, what were they?
Things like false kings who had built walls not to protect, but to control.
Okay, like the nationalistic illusions.
Exactly. And families divided by lies, homes turned to cages. It feels like the narrative version of those false ideals of home.
And the need to purge ancestral poison from the land.
Which connects right back to family karma, generational patterns needing resolution in the astrology.
So Elenya goes on a journey with Kekel.
To the temple of Tira, goddess of compassion and justice, and there she confronts the ghosts of her bloodline.
Her mother who left her.
Others too.
Her great-grandmother who cursed the family name. This whole chain of sorrow. It's her ancestral reckoning.
And the story says they ask for strength, not forgiveness.
Yeah, that detail feels important. Not erasing the past, but finding the fortitude to face it, integrate it.
Powerful. And the climax involves the Heartstone again.
Yes. Elenya, bound by moonstone and iron, symbolically poured the collective grief into the Heartstone.
Collective grief, like specific examples.
A weeping child, a dying father, a broken homeland. Very raw, universal images of loss and pain.
And the stone, it doesn't just absorb it.
No. It shudders, it fractures, but then it reforms. And it's described as more brilliant, more whole.
So it's transformed by processing the grief, not destroyed by it.
Precisely. It became stronger, more luminous through that confrontation.
And after the storm passes in the story, what happens? It mirrors the positive potential from the astrology. Acts of kindness spread like wildfire.
Really?
Old enemies share meals, orphans find homes, a new council forms healers, storytellers, seers. People focused on wisdom and compassion, not just power and money.
So the sanctuary itself transforms.
It becomes a place not just of safety, but true belonging.
And the story explicitly links this to the sky.
It does. It says Jupiter hung bright in Cancer's embrace, blessing the land with quiet fortune.
Wow, okay. And Elenya's final role.
Not a queen, but keeper of the hearth. Her throne is just a chair by the fire, offering warmth, a meal, and this explicit promise, you belong.
You belong. That really ties it all together, the nurturing, the belonging, the true sanctuary theme from both sources.
It brings it right down to that fundamental human need.
Okay, so putting the astrology and the story side by side, what really leaves out is this core idea, isn't it?
Go on.
That this coming year, this Jupiter and Cancer period, is maybe about accessing healing, connection, even that quiet friction, by having the courage to face the pain and the patterns from the past. especially around home and family.
I think that nails it. Both sources, just using different languages, are saying that denying the past, the grief, the unresolved stuff, it stops us building real sanctuary, real belonging.
It's that 12-year cycle showing up in both.
Yeah,
The intense focus on home, family, ancestry.
right.
The absolute necessity of confronting those past wounds, personal, family, collective.
It's unavoidable, they seem to suggest, but not just confrontation for its own sake.
Right. It's the pathway to building something better. Real sanctuary versus those false structures built on control.
Like Elenya's hearth versus the walls built by false kings.
And the transformation comes not from burying the past, but facing it, integrating it, like the heartstone cracking and reforming.
Becoming stronger, more whole because of it.
And underpinning all of this work is empathy,
Yeah.
compassion.
The wisdom of the heart from the astrology, the goddess Tira in the story, those acts of kindness. The sources present these not as soft options, but as the essential tools for doing this deep work.
Okay, so let's try and bring this home for you listening. What might this reckoning look like in your life, in your family maybe, over the next year?
Yeah, how could those past wounds, those generational things, be subtly playing out in your present? Affecting your sense of security, maybe your relationships?
The sources seem to invite you to ask, what does building your personal sanctuary really mean?
Is it just four walls? Or is it that inner feeling of safety, of belonging, that Elenya ends up embodying?
And how can you personally cultivate that wisdom of the heart? How can you lead with empathy, with intuition, as you navigate whatever comes up this year?
And maybe how can you help build that sense of belonging for others around you too?
Remember the heartstone. It had to take in the grief. It fractured.
But through that tough process, it became more brilliant, more whole, and that led to good things spreading.
So the sources suggest facing difficulty isn't the end point. It's the necessary path to, well, greater wholeness, connection.
And maybe accessing that quiet fortune Jupiter in Cancer offers.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the core message feels pretty potent. This next year, with Jupiter in Cancer, is presented as this profound time to turn inward, look backward, and face what needs healing. In our personal lives, our family histories, maybe even collectively.
And the idea is that by doing that work, guided by the heart, guided by empathy, we build stronger, more authentic foundations.
For home, for family, for that real sense of belonging.
It's a year framed by confronting grief, sure, but also imbued with this huge potential for kindness, connection, and that quiet fortune found in home and heart.
So perhaps the thought to leave you with as you step into this energy is something like this.
Yeah.
In what way, small or large, might you be called to unearth some forgotten grief? Your own, your family's, maybe your communities, because these sources suggest that unearthing is precisely the path.
The pathway to building a truer, more compassionate sanctuary.